So I've said we're bottoms up, but of course, like any other organization, we have structure. Within Integrity, we have our AI team, our automation team. I think I'm repping our human review team today with my jacket. But our role within Central Integrity is to set that common vision that allows their teams to ladder up to them. And each of our organizations at each level has what we call a circle. The circle is representative of the cross-functional leads from each area: software engineering, product management, data science. And it allows us to align so that we are able to have a common perspective that we can share with our teams and empower them to ladder up to. The other piece that I'll mention is we think about how do we assign talent to teams. I'm learning more and more that institutional knowledge matters. It's important for being able to work our jobs, but it also brings a sense of empathy that helps to streamline work broadly. So for example, our artificial intelligence team is constantly observing activities on our platform and oftentimes automatically acting on those should they observe something that a model believes is violating. However, our human review team is responsible for mistake prevention, making sure that if a model looks at something and maybe it's not right, that's going through a second review where we can understand those nuances and even potentially return that data point back to retrain our models. And that's a separate team, the team that notifies the user or the business that an account has been taken, or excuse me, an action has been taken, and gives them an opportunity to appeal. Oftentimes when these individual teams work in silos, they see their own problems, and they see every other team as that's a their issue, or that's a their issue. They're not embracing the challenges that that team has. By allowing somebody to build knowledge within a space, and once they've landed there, landed their impact, completed their projects, move to somewhere adjacent to that space where they can help that team build empathy of what are the unique challenges of where they came from, we're finding that it streamlines the interactions across the entirety of our teams, which is really important when, we have teams from Singapore, London, DC, Austin, San Francisco, plus teammates working remotely all over the world.
That's great. And Christy, you talked about focusing people on the problem to solve. Like you just want them heads down. And so how do you balance that with this? If there's a certain amount of stress that we talked about with all the disruption, but there is stress in the models that Teresa and Eric described as well. I think that puts a lot of responsibility on the individual. How is it that you handle that at Olin?
Well, so I think, we're a little bit more traditional. We're absolutely not command and control. And I'm going to go back to the problem question here. I think, it really comes down in leadership. Leadership is not transactional. It truly is about interpersonal relationships. So as long as my leadership team understands the strategy and why we're getting there, and they can make a personal connection, because everybody has a personal connection to what we're trying to do. They're either motivated by development, they're motivated by promotion, motivated by money. It can go, they're motivated by serving others and the feelings that they get from doing that. So you have to understand those motivations and then determine, how do you take the work that has to be done and make decisions like which talent is going to work on them. And it's a two-way conversation that has to happen. Going back to your question about how do we stay focused on the problem? How many have you walked into a conference room and you're listening to a conversation in a team and they're battling through what to do, and you're just lost in the conversation? And I'll walk in sometimes and I'm like, I don't even know what we're doing anymore. Where are you guys going with this? So I'll usually just stop and say, okay, what is the problem we're trying to solve? And it makes everyone take a pause for a moment and just get back to managing the complexity of what it is that we do every day and find the simple answer to what is the problem that we're trying to solve. And it tends to refocus or reset kind of the minds in the room to get back to something that is solvable.
Great, thank you. And thank you all. So with a few minutes left, Pete, we'll start with you, we'll come this way. What's your hope for the main takeaway for the room? We've talked about a lot of things to set up the day here, but you get a chance to have that opinion.
I guess what I would say is we're all resetting from COVID. it's affected everyone's business differently. My hope would be everyone has the opportunity to do a deep dive with each business function, because every business has different business functions that were impacted uniquely. I think you'd be really surprised in some areas of what you discover that you may have just assumed it was still running okay, or as was in the past. I think that would be my takeaway for the room.
Great, thank you.
All right, this is a tough one. I feel a little on the spot. So if there's one takeaway, I'd say it's that us as leaders have a responsibility to set the vision for our teams. But one thing I'm learning more and more, especially coming from a definitively command and control environment, is the talent that's coming out today is exceptional. And if we can maybe take the reins off a little bit more, give them a vision for where we need to end at the end of the day, we're often going to find that the journey they take is more efficient, and the ending that they achieve is more beneficial than we would have thought ever possible had we just provided them sort of that command and control structure and not the freedom to operate.
Thank you.
Yeah, so mine would be when Margaret Mead was asked when the beginning of civilization occurred, she pointed to a broken femur that had healed. And in the animal world, that person would have died. So that implied that that person was taken care of. And that means that it was service to another human. What I would leave you with is this: every day as IT professionals, we get to serve humanity. We serve our companies, we serve the community at large. So look for opportunities to serve each and every day. That's where the richness of life is.
Thank you. Christy, bring us home.
Okay, so I would say, going with the Stephen Covey theme, trust goes both ways. If your team is going to work better together, they're going to work harder if they feel the trust that you have in them. So you need to be present for them. You need to give them autonomy and space to do the work that they are doing, to do the work they want to do. And in turn, when your team trusts you, they will ask for help when they need it.
Great, thank you. And thank you all. I appreciate your help. It's been great conversations before this, and thank you for your time today. I appreciate it very much. Thanks, everybody.
Great job.
Good job, guys.
Great panel. Let's get a picture.